So again, these are expressions of the ESTP personality, and you might express one of these in one context and something else in a different context. And just like Antonia mentioned at the beginning, the career you choose might be based on your subtype, but also the career you choose trains you into a subtype.
Right.
So often the career we choose starts to push us and wire us to start expressing more like the specific subtype that lends itself to that career choice.
Yeah, and I don't think we've really talked about this in any of the other video or podcasts, but I watched my dad, or at least my dad who had ESTP preferences. I think he started out as a creative when he was young.
I was going to bring your dad up. This is perfect. Go.
Yeah, he started out because the stories he tells me of when he was young, he was like, the things he did.
And yeah.
I'm surprised he survived his teenage years, right?
Yeah.
The things he did were definitely not very safe. They were very devil-may-care, and he had a way with the ladies, even though he wasn't, he was not considered the most handsome man, but that did not matter at all for him. And my dad was born in like 1940, so we're talking about the 60s. But he's just this, he used to be a semi-professional sponsored roller skater at one point, right? And a chemistry major, and he just life was filled with joie de vivre, and he just did whatever he wanted to next. And then he went into a time period of, I think, becoming a dominant ESTP. And that was his career path. He was really aggressive marketer, and he was super good at knowing what people wanted and, figuring out loss leads for marketing. He became a C-level executive as a marketer. Scale, helped this company scale huge.
Yeah.
And then he went into another phase of his life where he dedicated himself to having a more sort of deeper religious side. And that's very much the normalizing ESTP. It's not uncommon for normalizing ESTPs to have a religious side to them. And that's the direction my dad went. And then he was very like 9 to 5, and he was a really good teacher as as an elder in his church, and ended up doing lots of public speaking around that, but was a lot more muted than he had been when he had been the C-level marketer. I don't think he ever quite made it to harmonizing. I think that was the one subtype he didn't visit. But you could definitely see that transition, and I wonder if circumstances had been different and allowed him to, if he would have ended up, visiting that side of himself as well.
So then we can say the expression of your subtype as an ESTP is based on your context and also the timeline of your life. There might be a maturation process that taps you into different energies, holistic or analytic energies of your cognitive functions, that brings different parts of you out. Imagine the ESTP personality type is a song. Each of these subtypes is a performance of that song. It's a little bit of a different arrangement, a different performance of that song. You're still an ESTP. You still have the same cognition. You're still learning and absorbing information through extroverted sensing or sensation. You're still making your decisions through introverted thinking or accuracy. That's the best way that you go through the world. It's just how do you express it? And that's what we're talking about today. And also these patterns, I didn't mention this at the very beginning as well, but these also came from the EEG scans that Dr. Nardi did. The reason why we have these for is he triangulated people's type when they came into his laboratory, connected to EEGs, and he'd watch the brain patterns show up in these 4 configurations, and that's how he determined the cognition and all that. We can't go into the math of that, but he talks about that as subtype.
Yeah. Each of the subtypes has a slightly different brain wiring phenomena that shows up. And and I think what's interesting, harkening back to my dad again, what's interesting is I don't know if he got into that subtype and then chose the career. I almost think it happened the opposite direction. I think he was naturally more of a creative subtype, or at least his upbringing allowed him to be. And then I think it was when he decided he was going to get serious about his career, I think that activated the more dominant energy.
Yeah.
And then when he decided he was going to be more religious, that activated the normalizing. So again, I think when you're seeking the right career for yourself, you're not just asking, well, what subtype am I and what should I be matching the career to? I mean, that's a piece of it. But you can also ask, what kind of person do I want to be? And match the career to the energy you want to pull on. Like, just for myself, I was raised to be a harmonizing ENTP type. And I've actually seen the limitations of that. Even though it's common for people to become harmonizing when they get older, you can have a context that encourages you to go straight there. And I'm seeing that that's actually limited me in some ways. And so I'm looking for opportunities that will bring out more of a creative side or possibly a normalizing side. And eventually I want to get to the dominant. because there's like a opposite polarity between, say, the dominant and the harmonizing, and there's an opposite polarity between the creative and the normalizing. And in order to be able to visit all of these subtypes, the theory goes is that you actually have to go adjacent, right? I can't just go from harmonizing to dominant. I've actually got to go through either creative or through normalizing, which is an interesting concept, right? You can't just make fast changes automatically. You've got to kind of stair step it. So I think part of when a person is trying to find the right career path, it's not just what will I like, what helps me become the kind of person that I will like.
Yeah.
Like it's about me too, because it has an influence on who I am.
Yeah. Okay.